This could very well be it. Everyone that beat me last year is not here to beat me anymore. This should be a really fun best of 5.
And let's get it going here. We're going to be jumping into map number 1 momentarily here. Yet another best of 5, yet another mirror for a spot in the semi-finals. Starting in the bottom right-hand side of the map here on Port Alexander, playing as the Blue Polos. It is Splice's Stats. Hashtag on the hunt.
On the left top side of Port Alexander, we're looking at the main base of the last non-Korean in this tournament. He's representing Ting. Give it up for Neeb.
You know what time it is, right?
Stats time.
No, those Neeb chants.
Oh. I thought you were going to provide some stats on this potential matchup, Johan.
I mean, I looked up their head-to-heads, but I mean, 2 out of their 3 encounters happened in 2016. It's like, come on, you know, like, does it even matter? Like, overall stats has won 2 out of their 3 encounters, and the last time that they met was 2 years ago here at the Intel Extreme Masters Championship, and he won that 2-0, so not too much to read into. I really feel like in a matchup like this, with how good both of these players are, it's going to come down to who's more on form here today, who's more refined.
Neeb is sending out one of his probes very early, perhaps adopting this Korean PvP meta where the second pylon is often being built outside of the main base. Of course, we saw a couple of PvPs today already, but those included Hero, and Hero is just different than these guys. Not in the way that they like to proxy buildings here and there, but more in the fact that Hero likes to always attack, and you already said it. These two, of course they can attack, but in general they're more known for their passive play, their mid to late game strong, you know, unit compositions, the army positioning and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think we'll see these guys probe up at least a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is the matchup, right? You always get dragged kind of in the muds in Mirror, and both of them will be proxying out on the map. I think for Stats, obviously it's this target. I thought it was going to be for Neeb as well, but it's just a single pylon kind of hidden by itself out on the map, so nothing like a Twilight Council or a Stargate starting there. And actually, if we have double adept against double adepts, I feel like this rarely happens nowadays. Usually you have one player going for the adepts and the other one going for one sentry and one stalker, or 2 stalker, but in this case it's going to be the adept mirror, at least early on.
We already said Stats has played plenty of Protoss or Protoss vs Protoss so far in this tournament, and things went very well for him. Neeb only played a single PvP in this tournament, and that was actually an 0-2 defeat versus Stats, versus Trap. Trap, of course, fell already earlier today in some of the weirder games that I've seen in a little while. Stats is going to open up with the Oracle here as he proxied the Stargate, and I do agree with you, Adept versus Adept, you don't see it that often anymore. People love the Stalker Sentry, it's all about those sentries, and we do have 2 sentries on the way as a follow-up for Neeb, but for now he's going to move out with those Adepts. I'm a little bit worried here. The first shield battery from Neeb is actually in the middle line. These Adepts just get in, and Johan, sentries don't have a lot of DPS. I don't like this start over here for Neeb.
Yeah, they're quite terrible against Adept here. The first one goes down. Nice block here from Neeb with the probes. He's just gonna target the probes here instead. Shield battery not quite ready on time. Okay. And although like Stats makes the same mistake, so Neeb's gonna sneak in across the map, but the damage was dealt first from Stats here.
Oh,
the Oracle now flies in as well, and the shield battery only has so much energy here to really help with this.
It's a bloodbath already. Probes are falling on each side, but that Oracle has a lot of potential. There's plenty of energy left as well, and Neeb is in trouble. Stalker is finally going to show up. Yeah, Neeb has killed 7 probes on the other side of the map, and that's pretty good, but he has lost 19 at home.
Yeah, and this is just so much damage here from Stats. This might just be game. Neeb is gonna tap out, and Stats takes the game number 1 here, quite convincingly after a very uncharacteristic mistake out of Neeb.
PvP is not always like this, guys, I promise. It's actually a pretty cool matchup.
90% of the time.
No. I mean, getting Adepts into the main base of your opponent is always amazing, but let's say they're standing there with 2 Stalkers, or sometimes even 2 Stalkers and a Sentry. You might get 3 or 4 probes, but that's going to be it. But Neeb had a pretty unique opening here. He went with 2 Adepts and he followed it up with 2 Sentries. Now, Sentries are great for scouting and are great in dropping force fields on top of the ramp, but they're not great in dealing with Adepts. They can't win a straight-up fight. The shield battery wasn't done yet, and the DPS of Sentries is pretty underwhelming. And then, of course, the Oracle showing up as well was just the icing on the cake for Stats. And 4 minutes in, Johan, and we're looking at a 1-0 lead for the Titan of 2018.
I didn't really see what route they went through in the middle of the map, but I have to assume they kind of went around one another, so they didn't really know about the Adepts heading across the map, and Stats being a lot quicker with his Adepts reaching Neeb's base. Even if Neeb had killed equal numbers, the fact that he got his probes killed before, obviously that was really bad. That shield battery, it was actually on the right timing to defend against the Oracle, but the Adepts had already done critical damage there. Yep,
and it drained so much energy as well, right? Normally a shield battery can buy quite some time for your warp gate to finish up. And
if Neeb had made the pylon on time and the Adepts didn't get in, I actually think he would have been in a pretty good spot if he got inside of the base of Stats, but then Stats might have paid more attention. Obviously, like when you're looking across the map, you can't be paying attention on your wall nearly as much, and neither of them really had vision around the natural base either, so you have to react so fast at the last second.
Good chance that we're going to see different openings here on the second map. Like you said, double Adept, you don't see it that often. I just think that Neeb really did not expect Stats to open up with 2 Adepts. I mean, we don't see it that often. Once in a while, it's one of the 2 Protoss players doing it, but Stalker openings are popular, and above all, the Stalker Sentry opening. Neeb a little too late. Keeping those Adepts out of his main base means a quick 1-0 deficit, but this is the best of 5. There is plenty of room for improvement. There is plenty of time for the American Protoss to still turn this around and potentially secure his ticket into the semifinals.
Let's see if he can do just that here and stay focused as we head into map number 2. We're going to be playing on Cyber Forest, starting in the bottom right-hand side of the map, playing as the Blue Protoss. It is Splice's Stats.
And on the left top side of this tiny map, we're looking at the main base of the American Protoss player. He's representing Ting. It is Neeb.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't remind everybody of how much these guys have achieved and how much money in particular they've earned in their career. Neeb with over $400,000 in career earnings, and Stats sitting at $467,000. If he wins this tournament, he will be in 2nd place in lifetime earnings on Starcraft 2, currently in 9th place. Not too bad a career.
There's so much on the line. Everything has been good, of course, for players. We already went over that earlier this weekend, that the top 60 in this entire tournament made prize money, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But from this point on, it starts going up really quick. These guys have already won $10,000 this week, and that's awesome. But a win here means you make it at least 25, and obviously the closer you get to that grand final, the bigger the chances are that one of these guys can walk away with 150,000. And I'm sure that Stats really feels that this is his moment to shine, Todd. I mean, all the guys that prevented him from lifting trophies in 2018, they have been knocked out. And even though not too many people were talking about Stats coming into this week, because yes, he did lose in the round of 32 of the GSL, but that was clearly an off day. Stats is showing us that he's still that guy from 2018. Now suddenly, I'm starting to like his chances quite a bit.
And he had a few bumpy series as well too, I think, where like we weren't sure of how well he was playing exactly, but now he's here and he's looking pretty good, winning that first game, a very, very quick one. This time around, Neeb wall Stats off, so he's gonna have to choose whether these Adepts pop inside of or outside of his base.
I actually kind of like it, right? Because Stats didn't send out any probes, so that means that he doesn't have a second pylon out on the map, obviously.
And Adepts are pretty terrible against buildings.
Exactly, so I don't think Stats wants to keep those 2 Adepts at home this long, but it's also very unlikely Neeb is gonna mess up against these Adepts if he knows they're out on the map. This probe is going to stick around. Ooh, this is awkward, by the way. Is that a mistake, you think?
I don't know. Maybe he wanted to make sure he gets rid of that probe, because otherwise he could have dropped the pylon there eventually. He was also following it the whole time with one of his own probes to make sure that doesn't happen. So I don't think it was a mistake. I don't think Stats makes mistakes.
No, I think you're right. I think the idea was
pylon and get out anyway.
I think the idea was to get one out on the map, to get some scouting information as quickly as possible. I think Neeb knows one of them is out on the map. Neeb also knows that he's going to have to be very careful. The American Protoss actually expanded pretty damn quick. He's getting a shield. Oh, that's not a fight that's good for Sentries. I'm actually a little bit worried there. But there is a shield battery. The Stalker was already retreating. Stats is going to be pretty damn aggressive here, Todd. I'm expecting nothing but a Warp Prism to come out of that robotics facility. And then he's going to look for openings in the defenses of Neeb.
Oh, Neeb, you need to react. Oh, he's going to lose that. Oh. And it goes down. Can't be letting that happen.
That's a really big deal, guys. In PvP, you don't have a lot of units to work with early on, so you can't just throw away one of your units. Neeb is going to get a second shield battery as well. He's going to get 3 shield batteries. He's going to get 1 in the main base, just in case something sneaks in there. Could be useful against potential War Prism play. This Phoenix is very important. Will it find the War Prism? At least it's going to see that the Nexus of Stats is very late. So Stats can still all out, all in here, because just a Nexus doesn't even cost that much. If you're not building any probes behind this, will he spot this War Prism, Johan? Yes, he does. Now that's massive for Neeb.
Oh, that's so sick too, because he attacks it for a little bit, sees the Nexus, and only 24 probes for Stats currently. He's committed to doing damage here. Neeb reads this perfectly, starts a bunch of shield batteries up the ramp, and he's going to have the force field capability, but with the Prism, you can kind of negate that, but it's going to be hard to also go in.
I'm a little bit afraid about that pylon as well. There's a single pylon powering all these shield batteries. Now, shield batteries can repair pylons, guys, so in that way, that's not necessarily a big deal. The Adepts are going to go forward. The force fields are good. Can he keep the sentries alive, though? Stats can possibly use the War Prism to drop some of his Stalkers on the other sides of these force fields. Look at the Immortal, by the way. The Immortal's almost done for Neeb, but he needs it now rather than later.
When will people finally learn? The Artosis pylon is going down! No! And all the shield batteries are going to be unpowered. The Immortal now joining the fight. Neeb's going to have to pull probes, but without the shield batteries to help his unit survive. They're going to die so fast. The Immortal, for now, safe, but so low on hit points. Stas looking to try and maybe shade inside of the main base, taking down the shield batteries now. 1 more pylon was remade behind this.
9 workers already went down. Neeb is still up in workers. The biggest problem is there's still an army in his natural. Stats has a bigger army. Stats is doing a phenomenal job in force fielding that ramp and keeping that Immortal away from the battle. It will finally participate, but not before 3 or 4 additional workers will fall. And I believe there are Adepts in the main base as well. And 2 Adepts can one-shot workers, man. Stats is kind of all over Neeb over here.
And there goes Neeb's economic advantage here. All but gone, 26 probes to 31. Stats still putting in some work here. Looking to try and snipe some more of these probes, but the shield battery doing a good job covering. But I mean,
somehow gets 1 more.
Yeah. That was insane. That pylon just so exposed. You saw it, you noticed it, and so did Stats.
It's like, you shouldn't attack a pylon there. It's one of these funny things in StarCraft 2, because normally Adepts and, well, Stalkers are decent against buildings, but Adepts are really not that good. So it would be weird to suddenly go for it, but if Neeb is distracted for only a split second, he's paying attention to his main base or his ramp or his Immortal, and suddenly Stats changed his target, he goes for that pylon, he unpowers all the batteries, and suddenly Stats' position became so much better, and that is what allowed him to eventually end up with like 17 or 18 probe kills. Neeb is still in this game, it's just that any sort of economic advantage he had is obviously gone, and overall he's just down a bit. I mean, he's down 7 probes, he's a little bit later on the Twilight, he's a little bit later on the Forge. The one thing he does have going for himself, Johan, is this 1 War Prism with the 2 Immortals.
Yeah, let's see if he can make anything happen with that here. Stats is kind of ready defensively. Neeb's going to be losing these shields pretty quickly. Let's see if he can snipe anymore. Prism on Prism Chase. High Octane.
You gotta be a little bit careful there. Good job by Neeb actually unloading those Immortals. Otherwise Stats could have kept doing that, and then eventually the Stalkers weren't able to get enough hits up. Stats feels very confident, I think, after the amount of economic damage that he did. And we know that Koreans love to go for these big timing attacks. 2-3 Archons in the mix, and a lot of Zealots, and that's their go button.
And I think he saturated his gases on his expansion quite a bit earlier than Neeb, so there's going to be additional or extra Archons, which are very, very important, even if you can get 1 more.
Oh, Neeb is playing a dangerous game there with an Immortal in the mix of Stats as well. But once again, he actually gets a Stalker there. The only problem is, though, yes, he keeps the Immortals alive.
Dark Shrine.
But they took a lot of real HP damage, and that could be a problem in some of those bigger fights as well. Because then the moment you lose your barrier and you lose your shield, your Immortals are suddenly worth nothing anymore because they're 1 hit away from dying.
That feeling when you Dark Shrine gets spotted instantly. I think that's what's about to happen here with the hallucinated Phoenix.
The thing is, though, Stats probably has to expand though, right? Because he knows that Neeb has multiple shield batteries in his natural, so going for a 2-base timing wouldn't really make a lot of sense as long as Neeb is on 2 bases as well.
I think he plans on attacking the 3rd base, and if he was to attack any of the other bases, it probably would be the main with the Prism. But yeah, in this case, Dark Shrine going down here for Neeb.
Maybe Neeb is going to be the one to eventually commit to an attack and maybe get a couple of Dark Templars in the main base. I know that's a strategy you used to love a lot, Johan, to get that Prism in there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Warp in, whoa, I've seen it. I've seen it in every single one of your PvP.
Whoa!
You love that DT drop in the main base. 1 or 2 Zealots to tank the cannon shots, and that's when the DT show up. Yeah, don't worry. I know the Todd classics.
Hey, it still works. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Nice wall actually up the ramp here, but I mean, it feels like Neeb's anticipating an attack from Stats, which I don't think will be coming anyway.
Stats
starts from both.
Yep. Stats is going to immediately fire up another Observer after seeing that the Dark Shrine finished up. He's going to get a cannon as well, but we all know that one cannon is not necessarily enough. It's obviously enough if you're defending at home. The same as Stats actually doing a little bit of wrong matchup. Stats, I mean, Arc on Arrest with a Warp Prism. I guess
he knows there is no Phoenixes, and there is no Blink, so it's actually smart to go for that because he might be able to do some damage, but in this case, Neeb reacted quickly enough.
Is there an Observer here? I know there are a couple of Observers out there. Yes, there is. Ooh, you gotta be careful with that Warp Prism. I mean, Neeb is obviously falling quite far behind in supply. He's looking for an opening. He's gonna get 1 or 2 probes, but then yes, he has to keep this Warp Prism alive. It's not in any danger of dying now. But this is still kind of risky.
Can he get the cannon? I mean, there's the
oh my goodness.
He might need to recall.
Maybe he can hey, there's no Observer. Okay, there is one Observer as well. There was just Observers and cannons everywhere. This did not work out at all for Neeb. Perhaps a little bit stubborn to go for this.
Yeah.
After it got scouted not once, but twice.
I'm surprised he actually went for it. Yeah, because especially from somebody of the caliber of Stats. But then there's always that mind game of, is he going to respect it enough? Because maybe like, if you're Neeb, you think that's that. Get in there, guys. Get out of it. And go on a diet so that next time you can actually go through.
The problem is that Neeb was already a little bit behind economically in this game, correct? And that obviously just got further by Stats having an expand faster, and Neeb just technically threw away 2 Archons. That is what happened there. He arrested with 4 Dark Templars. He didn't get the job done.
And that army supply is no joke now. 100 to 76, plus 2 weapons upgraded for both players. Neeb sees this army coming. He needs to make sure he doesn't let me down the ramp.
There are so many. I mean, it's hard though, right? Can he really hold the line? That army of Stats is absolutely massive. There are so many Zealots.
Next to the shield batteries now.
No, but it's hard. Like, even if he stands on top of his natural, then he's going to lose the Nexus. Stats is going to send a couple of units up those ramps. He's going to work on pylons. This could potentially supply block Neeb in the near future.
Come at me, bro.
Neeb is warping in some defensive Dark Templars to at least help out a little bit there. Where's the Observer of Stats? Why don't I see it?
So stealth, you can't even see it.
Okay, it's right there. There was an Observer of Neeb in the mix as well. You see that on the left side? Neeb could maybe snipe this Observer.
Oh, he's trying to come in from behind. I like that a lot. But, I mean, as long as Stats sets up the concave here before they fight, here we go. Guardian Shield used on both sides. Neeb not even gonna try. He knows there is too much. And Stats with the 2-0 lead here in this series.
Stats is looking really clean and very, very decisive so far in this best of 5. Taking the 2-0 lead off the back of just 2 great openings. I mean, I kind of like the start for Neeb in this game until that pylon went down, until those 4 shield batteries that Neeb invested in to keep his economy alive went down. It got empowered. At that point, he lost all of his probes. And Stats knew that he was in an excellent position. And Stats doesn't really make mistakes. Yeah, he lost a Stalker or 2 against the Immortal Arrest. But he kept the lead from the moment he had it till the very end. And then even when he went for that attack, he executed it so carefully. He's like, okay, I know I like it. I know my army is good. But I'm not going to do anything silly. I'm not going to give you a perfect fight near shield batteries. Slow and steady will win the race for me. And that is exactly what happened. I mean, Stats is looking great, and this must have been a very, very frustrating start to this best of 5 for Neeb.
Oh yeah, maybe he got a little too comfortable, but I really like the idea behind his start, where he locked all of the probes inside of the main base of Stats, got such an early Nexus. He was really in a quite good spot. I think even if he just took a little bit of damage, he would have been fine. It's just that he took an insane amount of damage. He lost way too many probes. He lost an important Immortal as it came out. His shield batteries got unpowered, and yeah, that was the biggest problem of all for sure.
It's almost like the game started exactly the way that Neeb wanted it to go. He wanted Stats to be forced to go for some aggression, and he definitely didn't underreact. He got all the batteries. He was ready for almost any sort of aggression. The only problem is that the batteries got unpowered, and that's kind of where the entire game plan of Neeb fell apart. The American hero is going to need a magical comeback here. He's going to have to win 3 games in a row against the best Protoss of 2018, and perhaps thought he's still the best Protoss, even in 2019.
So far, it's looking so Let's see if he can continue here with the Own Age train in that mirror matchup and propel himself into the semi-finals where he would be meeting the victor of Dark versus Solar that will take place right after this. We're on map number 3 and we're going to be playing on New Repugnancy starting in the bottom left-hand side of the map. He's up 2 games, he's on match point. It is Splice's Stats.
Alright guys, I know there's a lot of fans of this man in the audience right here in Katowice. I've seen signs, I've heard the support. He's gonna need your support right now to turn this into a competitive series. Make some noise for Neeb! That's strong, sorry Neeb, alright. He's like, I'm not making any noise. I've already made my noise at the first player introduction, okay?
Neeb definitely will have to play quite a bit better than this. It seems as if, maybe, I don't know what it is. Maybe he's lacking confidence, but definitely we've seen him play better than this for sure. Like, especially the game 1, letting the adepts in that way. That was very uncharacteristic.
Neeb is sending out a probe very, very quickly, yeah. Especially if your opening is as fragile as it is, right? Like if you're sending in your main base with 3 Stalkers and a Sentry, you can let the 2 Adepts in. Yeah, you might lose 2-3 probes, but it's never going to be more than that. And Adepts are not for free either. But if your opening is 2 Adepts, you send them to the other side of the map and then you follow it up with 2 Sentries. You've got one job and one job only, and that is keep the Adepts outside of your base, or things get very ugly, and that is kind of what happened. Now Stats this game made sure to get a probe outside of his main pretty quickly. He is building a second pylon inside of his main base as well.
Yeah, we'll see if maybe there is a proxy here down the line, but not having a pylon just yet. I think he's just looking to try and scout perhaps here, make sure everything's in order. Turns at the last second, yeah.
Doesn't want to reveal it, doesn't want... what is this? Stats? Is he just going to keep it here to keep an eye on the
chillax here?
On the, perhaps he just wants to know when Neeb goes for the expand, but he doesn't want to reveal that he actually has a probe out on the map. That's this game is going to actually build a pylon on the low ground as well. It's once again going to be 2 Adepts versus 2 Adepts. Now this used to be very common, but we really don't see it that often in PvP. Yeah. So Neeb, if your follow-up is 2 Sentries, please be on top of your wall. But it's not going to be 2 Sentries, he actually opens up with a Stalker here.
Did he wall himself on the other side? Okay, yeah, he did. So that next is going to be delayed. And Neeb actually drops a Robo here pretty early inside of his main base. What do you think?
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously 3-gate Warp Prism Aggression is very good, very powerful in this matchup, but there is a Sentry in the mix as well. Now, Sentries are not necessarily bad because Guardian Shield can be fantastic. You can also go for a Scout. But I think the moment that the depths of Neeb spot how quickly Stats is actually expanding, after a 4 or now even 6, as we know, Adept opening, that is also not that common, you know. Adepts are really good, but they're good in aggressive menace. They used to be good in Phoenix battles, they're low on gas.
This is awkward.
I guess Neeb could have gotten in there, but he didn't want to throw away 2 Adepts, because I think now Neeb wants to be aggressive. You don't want to throw away units if you want to make a big attack, right? Then you want to keep those 2 Adepts. They may not be good in Stalker-wise, but it's still HP that you have in your army. They can soak up some shots, and they're obviously good against all the Adepts that Stats currently has out on the map.
It feels unconventional to go into a bunch of Adepts and then go into Stalkers, but I feel like Neeb maybe didn't want to go for the all-out aggression, whereas Stats not very hesitant at all. He went for 6 Adepts and he's about to try and shade inside of that main base here.
I want Neeb to full wall off, Jon. I really want Neeb to full wall off. But he's going to see all of these Adepts now as well. He's got a probe in the mix and he's going to drop a pylon, and that's a lot of Adepts. But I think Stats is a little bit scared as well. He's suddenly like, whoa, Neeb gets into the main base. There are 2 Stalkers, but that's about it. 2 Stalkers have a hard time dealing with 2 Adepts as well. Neeb is going to get quite a bit of economic damage. Not a bad start, but his build has been revealed.
Yeah, and we got a shield battery on the other side here. Neeb making sure he doesn't let these Adepts in. Going for the all-out push here. Immortal on the way. Maybe going for the Sentry would have been better.
Not sure.
He would have that, but that second base in danger now. For Stats, the pylon being targeted down.
The force fields are going to be really important. If he can force field the army out, and that is what he does, it's really important Neeb keeps up these force fields though, but that's going to be hard against all these Sentries. Oh man, with the Immortal on the way as well, Stats is looking so freaking good. The Stalkers are actually coming in from the other side of the map as well. The biggest problem is now, Todd, now there is an Immortal on the low ground. Neeb is gonna need out of this world micro.
Yeah, Adepts are gonna reinforce here to try and tank at the front. Let's see if Neeb can make this happen. The one Immortal is gonna be a big deal. Stats adding his own War Prism behind this. He knows that he's gonna have so much micro potential with this, and Neeb is gonna abort the assault, go around with a Prism to try and be aggressive. This is almost getting caught here, solo on hit points. He's gonna use the Prism to chase it.
Wow, that is an amazing move by Stats. He's getting close. He does not get it. Perhaps a tiny misfire there in the end, but he's gonna chase it down. Hello there. How are you doing?
That's when you drop the Stargate, by the way.
This is when the Stalker just suddenly goes Rambo and hangs below the War Prism on a rope and shoots at the other prism.
Imagine if Stalkers could shoot while being dropped down here before dying. You might actually go for it.
Yeah, you can do a little micro trick. Robo Bay is going to be the follow-up. All memes aside, this is not a good opening for Neeb. Neeb was hoping for more damage there. He was hoping to keep up the pressure.
He's flying into the main.
A little bit long. What?
Oof. Playing with fire here a little bit.
Maybe he wanted to see whether or not that War Prism had units inside of it. Because if it didn't,
yeah,
that would mean that there are 4 units out there on the map. Neeb doesn't have a lot of vision right now, so crazy move. But
yeah, that could have been a rough way to find out if Stats had been a little bit more on point and dropped the Stalkers.
But it's also rough when, you know, an army twice the size of your army shows up in your natural and you're not ready for it. So maybe Neeb is playing a dangerous game.
He went for a Robo Bay, I think.
Yep, yeah. Maybe some Disruptors.
Yeah.
Love it. I mean,
usually when you go for that, you get Blink to synergize, but in this case, he's going straight for it because I think he realizes that Stats is going to be on full ground and it's not like he's going to have Phoenixes himself.
And Stats has a lot of sentries.
And he gets Gravity Drive. Wow. So that Prism is going to be quite a bit faster.
Look at that Stargate. Does Stats just know? Does Stats scout this with a hallucinated Phoenix or something?
Maybe he made it just for the Prism and then recall happened. He's like, well, I might as well use it. I mean, it's a composition that you can go for by default, where you get Phoenixes and you get Chargelot and Archons.
This is going to get interesting, Todd. I mean, Stats' army is a little bit bigger, but one Purifier Nova from the Disruptor of Neeb can pick off multiple Adepts, even Sentries as well. Those are units that don't split very well. Neeb spots this army of Stats. He knows it's going to knock on his front door, but Stats also knows that the Disruptor is already out. Neeb is going to try to connect a shot. Neeb needs to make a big shot, maybe in the Sentries. Oh, goes for a Stalker, and well, he gets one Stalker, and the other units get saved by the War Prism. But at least Neeb survives.
Yeah, and Stats has been spooked. He goes home, knows that he could be in trouble if he overextends. We got a Phoenix on the way, and I'm worried for Neeb. If this gets caught, you know, War Prism, they're a little bit of a paper plane. They die very quickly. If he was to lose his Disruptors out in the middle of the map, that would mean trouble. Goes for the Colossus production behind this. Very unconventional.
Yep, not something we see that often in this day and age of PvP. Neeb is going to try to follow it up. I mean, Colossus can be good if you can protect them against Zealots. They have reasonable damage. The biggest problem is that Phoenix, like you said, is going to shut down this initial investment of Neeb with the Disruptor and the War Prism. But as long as Neeb keeps those units alive, it's obviously not bad. They will always pay for themselves one way or the other. Even if the Phoenixes fly in very deep and lift the Disruptors, they will still be exposed, and maybe in that way, Neeb can still get some value out of the tech.
That's a funny War Prism right there. Went to the absolute west side of the map, then back at top through Antarctica, and now kind of back in the center.
It smells the Phoenixes. A little bit of fear.
I mean, with Gravity Drive,
hey, that's
might be able to get away. Ooh, that tickles a little bit.
Yeah, he's like, what hit me? Didn't see it. Good job there by Neeb. That was incredibly safe because he knew that the Phoenixes weren't there. He scouted it with his hallucinate Phoenix, but that one just got picked off. Neeb has to be careful. He knows he can't lose that War Prism and the 2 Disruptors, or it could be the end of his run at the Inter Extreme Masters in Katowice. It's been a great run for Neeb already, of course. Quarterfinals is excellent. Winning his round of 12 match this morning, 3-0 versus Ragnarok was excellent. But things are looking dicey. Oh my goodness.
He dies. You couldn't let that happen, Neeb. I cannot believe he didn't realize there are Phoenixes.
I think he knew. I just think he thought he could recall it out in time. But
yeah, he's been spamming hallucinated Phoenixes for a while now. That was so risky, and sometimes you play with fire, you get burnt.
He does have the Colossus, but I mean, Colossus are also good with upgrades, right? Like if you have +3, then your Colossus hit just a little bit harder, and they make those Zealots disappear a little bit faster. I mean, Stats is just freaking rock solid so far in this best of 5. I really can't be, you know, I've been pretty critical today, I think, in the majority of the games I've casted, but I am incredibly impressed by everything that Stats is showing us.
He actually plays with the music, the game music.
and he calms him down.
All right, Immortal drop inside of the main base. I think he might want to try and attack the third base at the same time, because usually you have to send a lot of units back to defend against these big whopping of Zealots there.
Yep.
Sees that the army is on the third base, so he's going to run towards the second base to try and catch that completely off guard.
Okay, the Colossus went all the way back into the main base. He's going to pick up his Immortal. He's going to get out of there. The Phoenix is going to sweep in as well. A little bit of first-person stats. Look at this man, Johan. Stats is all over the place. Colossus are good, but they need to be protected. And that Colossus doesn't feel that protected to me. A couple of Stalkers are not the bodyguards you're looking for. Stats is going to drop the Immortals on top of this Colossus as well. And there's no other way to put it. This has been all Stats. The Titan of 2018 has dominated this quarterfinal, and he's eager. He's like, no Maru, no Rogue, no Serral. This tournament is mine. Stats will move on to the semi-final.
And he takes us right back to the 3-0 zone, Rotty. Here we go again.
I was kind of happy we left that zone, Todd. I think I enjoyed that ZVZ. I enjoyed that back and forth 3-2. Unfortunate for our American hero. I think he played a phenomenal Katowice overall, made it out of a very tough group, and had a great round of 12. But in this quarterfinals, I mean, like I said, Stats was rock solid. You gotta tip your fedora to the way that Stats played here.
And you can only do that. That was fantastic performance here by him. I can't wait to hear from you. But first and foremost, let's go to a break, and then we'll have the interview on the stage.